You don't know the power of anime.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to another Pretentious review. This time, Star Wars Visions, out today on Disney Plus. And what a great show we have for you guys today! Because, of course, I am Justin, the Culture Coyote, and joining me, as always, is the DC Dad, aka the IKEA Assembler. Dare I say, animation sensation, the food vlogging, theme park jogging, Disney Grizzly himself, Lucas.
What's up, Justin?
Yeah, what's up? I'm having a great little Wednesday. Got some yard work done and watched a full 9-episode anime.
Yeah, wild.
Anthology, not my usual thing. Now remember, if you like this content, please leave a like. Please leave a like on this video. Subscribe to us here on YouTube as well as TikTok, and keep up with the latest in pop culture news by joining our Twitter and Instagram as well. Show the Disney Grizzly over here a big bear hug and support him on Adventures by Abel's YouTube as well. And give a shout out to our friend Alex by following him. His channel is In the Bat Loop, and he's on YouTube and Instagram as well, and TikTok. And finally, you can get the Pretentious Pop Culture t-shirts as well as other great pop culture merchandise by going to jakesdesignsrw.com. Use the promo code POPCULT, all capitalized letters, at checkout for 10% off your purchase. And remember, you get free shipping with all your orders. So with that said, I want to get a little preface before we head into full spoiler or non-spoiler talk. Because with this coming out today, we know some of y'all haven't seen it. Y'all probably want to get a little bit of a first
impression. A little bit of time to watchy.
Yeah, before you deep
a little bit of time for it to sink in. Get to the meats and potatoes, everything.
We're talking about just over probably 3 hours of content, not too long of a thing, but still definitely some of y'all probably just got off work, all that good stuff. So before we get into the spoiler talk, we'll have definitely a non-spoiler section. But with this being our first brand new Star Wars project and our first anime that we've covered animated properties, but this is our first. I want to kind of break down some of the differences that Lucas and I have with our interests here, because as I called him the animation sensation, there's a reason for that. Because whenever it comes to our interests, I'm more of the guy who is less inclined to like animated properties and more inclined to like the hyper realistic film and likes of Christopher Nolan, stuff like that. But one of the things that Lucas and I share is our extreme love for Star Wars. And with that being said, Lucas, where was my excitement for this? Yeah,
very low. You had very low excitement.
Yeah, so that was so going
no
in.
Excitement. You had no excitement.
I see this as a like this isn't what I want out of Star Wars. Like before I watched it, this is all pre going into this, right? Lucas, when you heard about this, what did you think?
My mouth hit the floor. I was stunned by some of the things that they were showing from some of the snippets they were giving us. I wanted them longer. I want more. I still want more. I don't have enough.
So yeah, and out of Star Wars. So Lucas and I always talk about this aspect of Star Wars. Star Wars is not sci-fi. Sure, it's about space, but it's not a science fiction. It's a fantasy.
It's space wizards.
It's a fantasy story with the tone of. It's always been the tone of. It's the fantasy with the tone of like westerns, but also samurai or Asian inspiration. And of course, this series, Star Wars itself, was inspired by. I just looked this guy's Akira Kurosawa, the Japanese filmmaker, who Lucas told me about. That I don't think I've seen any of his films. Have you seen his films?
I've never seen any of his films. I just know what he's
Yeah.
famous for. So
See, I mean, I guess that doesn't qualify as popular culture anymore, but knowing that he's a legendary Japanese filmmaker, we can probably see not only here but in all of Star Wars his influences with George Lucas. And of course, we have varying, Lucas and I have very different tastes in what makes Star Wars Star Wars, what movies are the best, one out of a Star Wars property. And going into this, I personally animation. All right, when it comes to especially action, I seldom care about animated action because if you have two characters fighting with swords, I will always be more impressed by two actual human beings that trained, learn the combat, and are executing combat. But every once in a while, you'll have characters in animation property. What Lucas says is, or I keep pointing to you on my side, but what Lucas, he's always talking about. He likes the freedom
my
that.
wife's here, guys.
Hey, what's up,
Hey,
Carla?
baby.
The number one Star Wars fan right there. Uh, well, the number one Hayden Christensen fan for sure. And
Yeah, it's Star
that's what
Wars
it is.
anime.
That's
It's
exactly what it is.
100% anime, and it's beautiful.
Yes, and so Lucas always talks about the freedom that animation gives you in terms of storytelling and choreography and different things that you can do. So I'm only interested in the beauty and those exactly what he's talking about.
We know you don't like anime,
Um,
Mike.
yeah, it's not for everybody, and it's one of those like I'm looking for the same thing Lucas is looking for. He's just that's more of like his niche there. That's his brand. So I'm not really one to like animated properties unless they're doing like when it talks about anime, right? Just two anime that the animation style really did something for me, right? Gurren Lagann, right? Gurren Lagann is doing things with their action that you can only do in an anime. Like you can't do that in a 3D animated either because you see these pencil marks and these whenever there's an explosion, you see like this painted thing and that's the kind of stuff that speaks to me is like the beauty in that. So when and of course Trigger is the studio who made Gurren Lagann, one of the studios that worked on it. Who what else did they make, Lucas?
They made Kill la Kill.
Well, no, I mean like they made one or
Oh
two of
yeah,
these episodes.
they made yes.
So that was piqued my interest, but it wasn't enough. It's like I'm not a big fan of anthologies either because they're usually just throwaway stories that don't
I
go
actually
anywhere.
really like
And
anthologies because
and
it's a
yeah,
It's like a really quick wrap up. Like you have just a little
yeah,
fun example of something, and it just goes on from there.
yeah, and that's going from the unlimited nature of and I'm going to get long winded here because this is I want to preface how important like my opinion on this is going to be after what I say because the as I was saying the limitations that you have in live action, I enjoy watching people overcome them to do something really incredible. But in animation, you don't have those limitations, so you can do virtually whatever you want. So when you don't do something incredible, then it's a letdown. Um, and I also think that when you do an anthology, when there are a bunch of short films, we're talking about 13 to 21 minutes of a story. You're very limited in what you can do. So there's a lot of pressure to really do something spectacular. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to say that I'm a freaking fool. All right, this this Star Wars Visions stuff going on, like not excited for it at all. My expectations are down here. Let me tell you something. Never a million years that I thought it would be cool to see two cartoon characters. Like I've seen all the Clone Wars. None of that was really and all of that was just too much. It didn't really. It either looked too real or not real enough. This right here, some of the most astounding visuals I've ever seen. And a lot of these stories, not hold
I
on,
knew this. I knew
hold
this was
on.
coming. I knew
Hold on.
this was coming. Finally.
Hold on. So, not a lot of great storytelling here because each episode 20, 21 minutes at most. There are a couple here, ladies and gentlemen, that are able to stick that landing and tell a beautiful story that is something I never knew I wanted that I'm so happy I got. Now, granted, some of these utter trash, but not many, folks. There's only 9 episodes in this first season. If
Even the
there is only,
ones that are
all
bad
right, your turn.
for
Your
my
Lucas's
no,
turn. Lucas's
even the
turn.
ones that are bad for my opinion, like I had so much fun with.
Ugh.
Like, granted, the story was not sustainable. I guess is the word I would use, but they were so fun. Every episode is so fun. I don't know why, but like, an episode I didn't think I was going to like is in my top 3. Like I'm blown away by some of these.
All right, with that out the way, and like again, I, not an animated. Like I like anime. I personally like the animes that don't have a lot of action because of the reasons I said. But every once in a while, like I said, you get Gurren Lagann, which spoilers for that show, but not really spoilers. But they escalate to the point where there are these massive space robots in space throwing planets at each other, and that's cool
Correction,
looking because
universes. They're
well, no, I
throwing
didn't want
full
to. I did.
universes.
They do both, Lucas. I didn't want to go that far in the spoiler talk, but yeah, like they and not universes, galaxy. They don't throw universes but they throw galaxies. So, but like that's something that utilizes 2D animation very well and has a little bit of 3D elements in it. Um, there's only so much you can do with 2D animation. So when you're able to do something really spectacular, that really tickles my inner fanboy. Now, granted, um, this isn't what it's still not what I wanted out of Star Wars, but it's still really good content, and I hope that we eventually get the things that I want out of Star Wars that I've been wanting forever, and I'm being real cynical about. And Lucas and I have similar desires. Like we still need to get an army of Sith fighting an army of Jedi. You know, like I don't know. I think
Crossing
Lucas joins
fingers.
me. Like
Crossing
I don't think
fingers.
we're ever gonna have that. We're never gonna have that. So it's always gonna be about you know I don't know. Like Obi-Wan's coming out. I mean, it's not that I'm not excited for like Boba Fett and Obi-Wan because I like Ewan McGregor. I like that, but like that's not my like. I want to move away. Both Lucas and I want to get away from the Skywalker saga, and this is the first time. The first time looking back, it's the first time we've in a property that you can watch, not a game, but in a property you can watch where their Skywalkers have no bearing on anything, and that's cool.
Before we go into spoilers, that you said that there's nothing.
Well, no, we know
even...
we're still in non spoilers because we got to
Okay.
break down our
Oh,
thoughts.
true. I guess.
Because I just want that's my preface. You have a preface.
Yeah. I'll wait then.
No. I'm done for now.
No. I was just gonna say like this is. I don't know if we would consider this spoilers or not, but nothing from Star Wars canon is in these shorts. Like nothing.
Well, objects and
well, the things that tie you into the universe
yes.
are there to make you realize this is still Star Wars and not just anime.
Yeah, and each thing is so dramatically different that what one episode has as far as lore, the next episode might not have. And sometimes, like we'll talk about when we get into spoilers, but there's an episode that tries to be lore friendly and then breaks it in a way that just is like, oh, okay. And then there's one episode too where not the second episode, but also there's another episode that um does things that don't make sense at all in any kind of scientific way. But it just looks cool, so you don't care.
I know which one you're talking about too. I know which one you're talking about.
But we're talking. We're also talking about Star Wars, where space is a vacuum. So if a sound is made, you can't hear the sound. But Star Wars is all about those loud spaceship engines in space, anyways. Because who cares at the end of the day? Does it look cool? Does it sound cool? Let's just do it. All right. So look, talking about the show, Lucas, what did you think about these 9 episodes as a whole? Do
As a
you
whole,
recommend them? What
I
do you
recommend
like?
I
I think
recommend
Star
every
Wars.
one of them because every episode has something for someone. There's not one episode that not one kind of person can't like. There's a happy good feel episode. There's a dark There's a dark and like just depressing episode. There's a good heroic like the hero wins episode. There's a good almost every episode has a good showcase of what you can do with animation like combat and fights. There's there's colorful episodes, there's dreary episodes, there's lighthearted episodes, there's comedic episodes, there's musical episodes, like anything you can think of, one of these episodes has. Granted, not everyone might want to watch all of them, but there's definitely an episode for everyone out there.
Yeah, and this is gonna be like when we get into the individual episodes, it's gonna be a little tough to talk about, but because there's so much like they're all divergent and it's hard to recall everything. I have some notes, but like overall, the Star Wars visions, right? For if you just can't do anime, like Carla, don't watch. Like I don't recommend to anybody who doesn't like. My mom hates anime completely. Now I told her to watch the first episode because the duel is a from the comic from the trailers you know that there's one episode that's black and white um and I that style is very unique. There's not a lot of animes that do that. So as far as like, hey, do you like lightsabers? Do you like cool sound? Do you like cool visuals? Watch this 13 to 14-minute episode. And that's the only one I really recommend to like people who hate anime. But like if you hate anime, this isn't gonna do anything for you. This is very anime. They're not there's only one character from any of the Star Wars stuff that I know that they use, and he's done pretty terribly in my opinion. But he's in it. I'm not gonna spoil who that is, but it's nothing. It's nobody huge. It's not like Anakin's in it or anything. There's no Darth Vader, which was like a huge surprise to me. That you know, for them flexing like I've
I
seen.
actually like that they didn't use,
No, I'm
you know,
okay with them not doing that, but I'm shocked that as famous as Darth Vader is, and how we've seen the action figures of Samurai Vader, I'm shocked that we didn't get some form of that. Right? You know what I'm saying? Because
it's very true.
that's a very iconic thing that I've seen multiple times is the samurai outfit Vader with the yeah. I'm okay. Like I didn't need that, and really didn't care either way. Like I didn't have any expectations for this. But as far as like story goes, none of these stories are really going to bring any extreme emotions out of you because you're having to learn to like characters. Well, first off, that's not necessarily true, but for the most part, none of these episodes are going to have. You're not getting enough time to really get to know any of these people to then care about them and to then have something happen to them that causes an emotional experience. But there are some exceptions to that somehow pull it off, and I don't know how they do it, but I actually feel something. But that's very few
Yeah.
and far between. There's also several of these episodes that do not have closure, that leave in the middle of the story at the end. The conflict is not resolved, if you will. So that can be a little off putting to people like my dad who can't stand cliffhangers.
Well, I don't know if this means anything, but it says season 1 when you go
Yeah,
to the season.
and
So maybe there's a season 2 and they continue the anthology with some of the left like cliffhanger episodes and they just maybe do another little 15-minute episode. That'd be interesting.
I hate that idea, but I think they can pull it off. I don't like the idea of like let's like if they did another 9 episodes a year from now and each episode was the second episode in each one of these. There are some of these that I definitely
Well,
don't want a continuation of. Some of these have a complete story, and again, I wouldn't want them to be limited to only continuing these 9 stories.
well, that's
But
what I'm
anyway,
saying. The ones that have like the really good cliffhangers, and I'm assuming Disney and Lucasfilms, and they all know which ones would be well received. I'm assuming.
Mhm.
So they would know which ones would deserve maybe a continuation, like another little continuation, and if a second season comes. And I know people love anime, and I know people love Star Wars. You put the two together, people are going to eat it up.
Yeah, and I'm not going to rank the full first season because every episode is so different that, like, some of them, in my opinion, Lucas likes them all to an extent, but like there is one episode. There's two really, but there's one episode that I think is just utter garbage that I felt
I
like
know
I
which one you're
wasted
talking about,
20
and
minutes of my life.
I know which one you're going to say.
I think you know it's one of two, but I don't know if you know which one it is. But anyway, and then mild spoilers. What was I going to say? I had a little bit of a brain fart. Anyway, Lucas, say something while I'm thinking.
Belly
'Cause I
bumpy
had
babies. Belly
belly
bumpy
bummy
babies.
babies. Oh, because I said that. No, what was I gonna say? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Like, it'll come back to me. Oh, so one of the things I want to talk about is the action itself. Very dramatically different from episode to episode. And this isn't the mileage spoiler thing. This is another thing I want to talk about. So if that comes back to me, I'll say something. But the I noticed it felt like I have surround. Oh. By the way, Dolby Vision HDR. If you have a TV with Dolby Vision HDR, if you're not an anime fan and you like something that really makes use of your TV, like I've never seen a 4K anime ever, and seeing a 4K Dolby Vision HDR anime, oh, so good. Especially the first episode, especially the black and white. Oh, Lucas you got to come over to my house and watch like one of these episodes.
And you
And
just named the one I would probably watch.
oh, it's so good. But some of them have seemingly stereo sound, and then some of them have surround sound. That first episode has, I think, the best sound design because when a lightsaber is ignited, you like there's a scene where there's lightsaber stuff going on in the background, and you hear it behind you, and you hear the of the lightsaber like behind you. Oh, and like whenever they're spinning, whenever they make contact, the bass is used. It's all very in line with the Star Wars stuff we've seen in the live action. The sound is there. Some of the music is breathtaking. Some of the music I feel like it's trying too hard, and then some of the music is downright unique and strange and unsettling, but really sets a different tone and makes each episode unique. But I never did remember what I was going to say about the mild spoilers. But we'll go into full spoilers. Let's dive right in.
First off, just while we're talking about it, I'll throw this up here. We're going to give you about like 10, 15 seconds to either close the video out if you're watching it on rewatch, or if you're with us live right now, just we're going to spoilers, guys. So full on. Let's go into it.
Spoilers. Don't
All right.
do it.
So let's talk about
Okay.
the
Episode 1, The Duel. Very bold choice to start this season off with that as the first episode because this is some of the most non-mainstream content. Now, granted, anime arguably mainstream now in 2021 with stuff like Demon Slayer and all that, but this is very different from your typical modern anime because is it in color, Lucas?
It is in black and white, and it's sketched, almost looking like it's the 3D. It's the 3D style animation for anime, which I'm not a fan of 90% of the time. I'm not a fan of that.
It's
style
3D,
of 3D,
but they're penciled in.
That's
and
it. Yeah, it reminds
So
me
it's
of
almost like Borderlands
or
stuff.
cell shading. It's very
Yes,
close to cell
because
shading.
it's a cell and they shade it, right? But there's no shading in the sense that there's color. But
it's sketched.
there is color. There is color in the same way that Sin City has like black and white, but like blood, anything red is color. It's here. It's anything that's a light source is
which is
color.
awesome.
And so that gives birth to these silhouettes over the. But by golly, if you ever have seen an OLED HDR contrast where you'll have a lamp. Like Cruella did this very well, where there's lamps and stuff in comparison to the other scenery going on. This is probably one of the closest because everything's black and white. The light rays, the contrast coming from these bright LEDs, these lights that they're shining the pixels, they're shining all over to the scene. So nothing's truly black and white. It's just varying shades of whatever that light source is.
This episode, they shouldn't have led this with this episode for me. They shouldn't have.
Because it was all downhill for you after this.
It was all. There are 5 episodes that are tied for the number 1 spot for me.
There's like different tiers.
No, number 2 spot. There was 4 episodes that was tied for the number 2 spot for me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you.
You have an S tier, an A tier, and different.
There is not one of these episodes that is topping this for me. I'm going to spoil my ranking right now and say this is my number 1 episode, and I'm going to spoil my rating for this episode, and it's a 10 out of 10. It is
right.
It seamlessly blends the Japanese architect with Star Wars aesthetics, and I didn't
archetype you meant to say, but we also didn't even talk about. Sorry to cut you off. Just real important. There's a filmic style. So there's film grain, but there's also juddering of a camera. So you see like the camera flashing. So it looks like you're watching a projected film versus something digital. So anyway,
it's what we talked about earlier, how George Lucas was inspired by Kurosawa films. So this looks like it would have been a Kurosawa film, but if he took George Lucas's property and made it.
And it reminds me of classic anime like Ninja Scroll in that same.
It made me think of Afro Samurai the whole time watching.
Yes, Afro Samurai is the same exact inspiration, and so that's a specific type of anime that there's only like a handful of properties that mimic that aesthetic. Of course, with Ghost of Tsushima out and other properties like that, it started like that style having this resurfacing. So we'll see that. We also shout out to Lucy Liu, who plays the one of the people in the duel, the female, and she's known for Kill Bill.
She was Sith.
Well, they're spoilers. They're both Sith-esque. You know, I don't think they're Sith anymore because there's no like the rule of two's done. This is all its own thing. So in this world, that version of Sith. But Lucy Liu, she played in Kill Bill, and what else? I'm looking for and Charlie's Angels. So she has kind of perfectly cast there. And then the main character Ronan, played by I don't know him much of a thing. He's in Chicago Med, but he's also the bad guy in Lucas's favorite Fast and Furious movie, Tokyo Drift. So. You know, it's good. It's good to see them, you know, scouting really good talent. This was like for the audience that they were targeting, which is people like Lucas and also I guess people like me. Very good idea for a first impression, right? Because I'm sitting here, jaw on the floor from the first scene, like when it finally, because it starts off in space.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, they're doing Star Wars because that's how you're supposed to start Star Wars. You start off with the stars and then pan the camera down, but then it'd be this filmic, juddery samurai film. And I was just like, oh, this is what we're getting. Okay. And the sound being such a high level.
And they also didn't pull punches on introducing what was going to happen with, like, say, lightsabers, right? So all throughout this whole anthology series, every lightsaber looks different, whether it be more of a katana shape because it's more Japanese inspired, whether it be a completely new construct of what a lightsaber is or what a lightsaber can do. But this episode drops you with what I never thought would be a lightsaber umbrella.
Yeah, and
this woman Mary Poppins her way into a fight.
To hear that said, it sounds ridiculous, and to some level, it is. And talking about the whole series as a whole, and how there are varying lightsabers to the extent where it's almost, to borrow our favorite word here at PPC, pretentious. Um, uh, just like trying too hard, they still pull it off. And if I like, she freaking Inspector Gadget copters her way, Mary Poppins her way too, but it's more of like this, they're spinning, right? So it's more than
Yeah,
just an umbrella. It's but they back it up with the visuals being perfect, the sound design really using that bass really just, it's terrifying and threatening, and you don't want to fight that. And that was my Jeff Goldblum impression, I
and
guess.
she.
But
Another thing I liked is like how the protagonist, because he is the
Ronan,
protagonist in this episode,
Ronan,
he
yeah.
was a samurai, while the antagonist was a ninja. Did you notice the outfits?
Yes, and that's the other thing too. A lot of the things because that, again, there's a level of pretentiousness to all of that. It completely works, and but things that they did, like that, I want to not like, but it looks good when like the umbrella, when he unsheaths the samurai with the lightsaber like a sword. I was like, oh, you know what? I'll give it to him. I'll give it to him. It looked tight.
It looked damn
Makes no
cool.
sense, but like, I don't care, because we're talking about the contrast again, which you can only see on an OLED 4K TV. But like when he pops the thing, the light fills the void, the black and white void there, and it just grows, and it's way longer. It's very Gurren Lagann in the sense that
And
it's so long. It's like
and
way
then like
longer than it should
the
be.
classic like Japanese hand catch, it was a force catch instead of a hand catch. It's just, I was like,
Which was spoiled in the trailer,
oh.
unfortunately. But so it wasn't as hype, but it was still hype
And
because it was
then
good.
there's just smart additions to the scene. So there's a scene where they cut the female Sith. She cuts the log off, and they're fighting on the log, and then she
Sounds
stopped,
so cool.
and then Ronan, he falls over a waterfall, and then she holds the log with the force so it doesn't go over, jumps down, and then uses the log to open the water so she can go through the water. I was like, that is smart.
It's
That is
creative,
so smart.
100% creative. The other thing is, like, for this is a very story light. There's no story here. It's very simple. It's two masters fighting, but there's visual cues and dialogue cues that they make. Where I can't remember the Ronin says something. I need you to do this thing, but
He says,
finish it
I need you
before
to fix my droid before the water starts
before the water
boiling.
boils, because he knows, like, he's got that confidence that he's going to be ready when that water, because it's just like, it just shows you his character.
Did
And
you
then the
expect
other
an
point,
R2 unit to be a missile launcher? I
well,
didn't.
right, I mean, it's all creative stuff. I mean, we see those R2 units actually throughout the anthology. But the other thing is, when Homeboy pops his lightsaber out, you're expecting Jedi, right? So you're
Exactly.
expecting blue, but instead they both got red lightsabers, boy. They're both, they're not the nicest people, boy. And it works so
One's
well
just a
against the
lot
black and
meaner,
white.
boy.
It works so well against the black and white because it's red, black, and white, and those colors convey that nostalgic, feeling of noir and just classic
So
film.
if you took the lightsabers out of the equations, right, it would be a great sword fight. If you took the force out of the equation that they showed, it'd be a great non-Star Wars canon. The only thing that made me realize I was watching a Star Wars related property was seeing the three-eyed alien, seeing the alien species that Bosk is from. Like, these characters that are so ingrained in our brains as George Lucas's creations of his aliens, like that's what kept me realizing this is Star Wars. This is a Star Wars
We
related
also,
property.
and going another step further as far as inspiration to another, like we all talk about classic anime. Of course, Dragon Ball Z came out in the '80s. We're talking about Akira Kurosawa's old samurai films. We're talking about Ninja Scroll. We also get music that is very inspired by the original Ghost in the Shell movie, where it's a lot of a female Japanese chanting, and it's not Star Wars at all. This like we said, this does not feel Star Wars at all, except for like winks and nods and just the aesthetics of things, and mostly the sound design, except for the music. But this is like where we're talking about uniqueness in all of these different episodes, and music is one of those ways they do it. This has music pulled straight out of Ghost in the Shell that makes this episode unique. I give this one. That's all I have to say. Like unless like
Yeah,
Kyber
no,
Crystal,
right.
right? Kyber Crystal is
Yep.
this the one where he pulls it out and is like, this
He
wards
has like
off evil?
he has like a Pokemon badge worth
Yep.
of like kyber crystals on his robes.
And I do the Han Solo thing where he hands it to the guy and he's like, here's a Kyber Crystal. It wards off evil, and I'm like, that's not like. And then I realized, you know what? Whatever. It's its own thing. Who cares? It's cool. It's cool looking. It's cool. Whatever. But I give this one. When I do my top tens, I don't always rank like best quality. I always rank what's my favorite and what I think deserves the first spot and what speaks to me the most. And Lucas and I prefaced, or we had a discussion before this where we're like, it's so hard to rank the best ones out of these because there are tiers to this, and this is in the S tier, but this is the masterpiece of the Visions. It's not my favorite, but it is close, and it is definitely a 10 out of 10 perfect masterpiece score for what a 15-minute episode can be. Like I'm not judging it in the way that I would a episode of a series or episode of a mini series or a movie or anything. I'm judging it as a short film, which is what it is, and as a short film for what it's trying to do, it succeeds in every level, and it's certainly a masterpiece. Lucas already said his ranking, so you want to move on, or you
10 out
want?
of 10. 10 out of 10. Flawless.
Okay,
Beautiful. Flawless.
which brings me to episode 2, which okay.
You ever seen an anime or heard of an anime called Beck?
No.
No? All right.
No. Okay, I mean, I like.
Well, this is Star Wars Beck, guys. If you don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
Okay. I will say I like Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I think he's cool. I don't like him in this, but I think I like him. He's cool. You know, he did the little Angels in the Outfield. Remember that movie? You remember that? You remember that movie? That movie was for kids, right? So he does kid stuff every once in a while. I mean, granted, he was a kid, but
I mean, this is a kid-friendly episode.
yeah. So okay, right off the bat, this is the bottom for me. This next episode, while Lucas spoiled his rank for a first episode, this is the least good episode for me. Heard a lot of people disagree with me on that on the internet. But
Really?
yeah, some people like this a lot. They thought it was great. I didn't. I like so the beginning we start instead of space, we start off with this cool scene of like blaster bolts, and I'm like, okay, we just finished another, and then it's a Jedi escaping, I guess, Order 66 and bumping into this Huttese guy, and forming a band, and I just this is not for me. Like I'm not gonna. Like I'm gonna call it utter garbage because we're pretentious and that's what we do and all that. But like it's just not for me. This episode was made for different people than Justin the Culture Coyote. This was made for people who have a different bar and who like this kind of thing. Granted, this felt like a very traditional anime like episode, but like it would have like had it been not Star Wars. Had it been an actual anime and had it been the first episode in an anime or like the middle of an anime, my feelings would probably be different because that's the kind of story I like. But you can't endear yourself to anybody in the amount of time this episode asks you to endear yourself to these weird characters that you have no reason to care about. And as far as Lucas goes, where he kind of misspoke and said none of these have anything to do with the Skywalker saga. This one does. This one, not canon, but
Oh
you know,
yeah, because
it's the
Boba
most.
and
Yes,
Jabba's in it.
yes,
That's
Boba
right.
and Jabba, and I was happy to hear Tamura Morrison as Boba, but he looks like hot trash. He looks like a
A
miniature
chibi,
version.
like a chibi
Yeah,
version.
like I was like, what the hell? This, but he sounds like Boba, and he has another 3 lines here, but they all sound great. Just like put Captain Solo in the Star cargo hold. I really don't have much to say about this. When they went to the pod racing place, I was like, ooh, and we didn't get a pod race. So that was sad. Missed opportunity there.
A song's
I
a banger though.
No, it's not. I didn't like the song.
I
The other
like.
thing too is like
No,
for
it's not.
Star Wars doesn't have rock. Star Wars has
Yeah, it
some
has.
level of hip hop
It has.
and cantina bands.
It's basically like electronic music.
Yeah, but they've never shown a guitar. They've never shown it, and it feels very like if the same people are going to a bar to listen to classical jazz music while they're drinking and also be the most badass bounty hunters, then if they don't like hard rock or like whatever this was, punk rock, um space punk, then the idea of this being popular and then playing at the venue they played at didn't make sense either, because like that's like having a show at a NASCAR
So the Padres
place.
Stadium is also the Execution Stadium.
Yeah, it's so, again, none of this really, first of all, Jabba the Hutt, it's like every freaking cartoon has to have some level of Jabba in it, and I just don't. He's not a character that needs to be around front and center for things. And
Yeah,
so
but
anyway,
yeah.
that's all I have to say
Yeah, I mean, I'm
about.
pretty much in the same boat as you.
Oh, really? I thought you might like this one.
Mm-mm.
Okay. I was like, because I'm thinking Jake messaged me and he's like, this is utter trash. I was like, yeah. I was like, you start off right here and you just take a freaking nosedive.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no.
The animation though was great to me. Like the animation.
I don't think it did
itself,
anything. I don't think it did
like,
anything new or interesting.
One of the things that stood out to me was the intriguing design of the 3-bodied alien. I liked the way he looked. I didn't realize.
Hold on. You're not talking about animation as a whole. You're talking about the character design.
Yeah,
Okay.
the character design itself.
Yes. Okay, I'll concede that.
I thought he was a fun looking like new style of, and like it wasn't an alien we were associated with. So that's
I feel like we were, but not with 3 heads,
3 bodies.
Like I feel like we've seen that.
3 bodies. Yeah.
We've seen that alien before. That one was like that alien was born in like Vegas when they were doing the nuclear bomb.
And
test.
then I mean I might have just been like too like still like riding high on the first episode, but I didn't realize Guy, I think his name was Guy, was a Hutt. I didn't realize he was a Hutt until like they said Jabba came back for you, and I was like,
there wasn't enough time. There wasn't enough time to let you like exist with the characters in that sense to where you could actually understand. Because like by the time the episode starts and when it ends, it's like, who are the band members again? Do they have names? Does the main character have a name? Does that even matter?
Yeah, I don't remember any of the characters' names from this episode.
And like by the time, so like the plot, this one had a plot, the other one didn't really. But the plot of this one is, one of the Hutt's family members doesn't want to join a family business, wants to do music instead. So this is about, it's a very like power of music, conquering all. But at the same time,
Star Wars story.
Right. But like by the time you understood that they like, I was like, oh, they're in a band, and then by the time you realize they're in a band, like you're like, are they good? Are they famous? And they don't seem that famous because they're playing to like a small venue, and then they're like, oh well, you played one song, and now Hutt dude is going to be executed because he doesn't want to join the family business, and then they play to this giant, 50,000 alien creature crowd, and they all love it, and they're all chanting up and down and asking for an encore. But you're like confused. You're like, oh, are they famous? like because he's the kid is roughly the same age. Like he's only so many years older than he was at the beginning.
How much of a time difference is this?
Yeah,
Like, it doesn't
like
explain that
are
either.
they just hurting? Is this the first time they've gotten rock music? Is that what this is? Like they don't have rock music? Like, oh, an electric guitar. What's that? I like that. I want to hear more of that. I don't know. Like it's such a weird. It's one of those like if you try to think about it, and a lot of these episodes have those things where it's like you think about it and then it sounds stupid, but you don't care because the quality is up here.
But
this
this
one,
episode, I thought
last
about
place.
it and I didn't like it. Last place.
This is a 3 out of 10. 3 out of 10 for me. This is I will never watch this again. I never want to see little chibi Boba Fett walking around.
It's like
the only reason it has the third point for me is because you get to see Jabba the Hutt whacking his tail to the music, and you get to see Boba Fett standing there stoically bobbing his head.
I told you, like comedic timing stuff. There was comedic episodes, comedic timing. It is. It's a very kid friendly.
I don't remember any of that really.
I think I'd give it 3 as well. I don't want to keep copying you, but 3, yeah.
So I guess episode 2 because I don't remember the last 3 minutes. Did we talk about something that exists? I don't think we did.
I don't think so. All right,
I think this is
episode 3.
Episode 2. I mean 3. Twins. The twins. Bringing it back. Thank God. I feel like they were deciding the order of this. They're like, when do we want to put episode 2? Where do we want to put the second episode? They're like, yeah, we could sandwich it between 2 of the best episodes.
This is from the Gurren Lagann people. And
Trigger, yeah, Trigger Studios.
Instantly, you can tell it's them.
Well, before we get to that though, like one of the coolest opening shots we've had, second only to Force Awakens for me, is you see the stars, but there is a purposefully blocked out shape of the stars, and the iconic shape that you and I both know as Star Wars fans is a Star Destroyer. And the lights flicker on, and it's so cool, and you're so hyped, and you're so ready, and it's just great.
And then there's 2 Star Destroyers connected, and you're like, oh,
we've never seen that one before, Governor. I mean, it's another one of those pretentious things, like in Force Awakens, where like, hey, we have a giant base we got to blow up, but it's bigger than the Death Star. That's kind of like what this is. It's like, hey, you wanna take a Star Destroyer and stick it to another one? Yeah, man, that's awesome. And it's really just a simple idea, but it's so cool looking. We're such little children for eating it up.
As an early 2000s pop punk band once said, 2 is better than 1.
Okay, I'm just gonna pretend I know what you're talking about and nod. So this one, just 2 things I will point out that made me laugh. One thing, he said, "I'm taking this to a galaxy far away" at one point, and I thought, "Oh, he's taking it to Earth," because from our perspective, we're a galaxy far, far away from him.
You're in the galaxy far, far away, fam.
So he's talking about me. And he also says, I had a vision, and I paused it, and I said, he said the thing.
This is the most meta episode.
I mean, it's not really. I'm reaching for it, but
I don't think you are though. I don't think
because
you are,
he says there's no try, there's only do. Like he says that too. But
this is the
like
most meta episode.
Going to the premise of this is there's twins. They were created, unlike Luke and Leia, these were created not from birth, but grown in a lab. And they were birthed from the dark side of the Force, whatever the hell that means. Doesn't matter because these are shorts. These are like fan films. You just enjoy it. What we do get is awesome armor design from like the dark side.
100%.
We get
made me think of the Inquisitor armors from the Fallen Order and Rebels.
I mean, the dark side, they know how to make shit look cool. Like that's all it is. Like everything, there's a uniform to everything, but at the same time, there's enough uniqueness between, the dark troopers versus the blah 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 blah. It's not like the the separatists that have the stupid little droids that roger roger roger, those things that nobody cares about. These are the Empire's cool. They look cool. So we have that, and then the premise is like, hey, it's a Star Destroyer, but instead of, or excuse me, it's a Death Star, but into Star Destroyers.
Star
That's
Destroyer.
a lot of arbitrary death words. Death Spaceship is the next Star Wars ship name coming out. It's very bland, but it's all cool. And that's the premise. I thought the lore was completely backward and none of it made sense. Where it's like, oh, it's these two people who've been dark side users for all this time, and randomly one of them decides to turn on his sister and be good, and he has a Han Solo vest for some reason.
Once I saw what happened to the Kyber crystal, I was like, all bets are off. This one's wacky, but it's the best kind of wacky.
Was cool. I was expecting more though from the trailers, because this one was the most heavily featured in the trailer, where we got to see like the tendril lightsabers wrapping around.
Oh yeah, the saber whips.
Yes, and we didn't really get to see that like too much. But also like this is the one where we have the glaring, completely world breaking scientific thing where they're in space fighting. And they have no breathing equipment or anything. They're just fine. And it's like, what?
And then just fast forward real quick, the biggest spoiler of the whole freaking episode. So instead of kamikazing by going to light speed through a Star Destroyer, Homeboy stands on top of his X-Wing, ignites his lightsaber.
Like Super Saiyan lightsaber.
Blasted through hyperspace and splits the Star Destroyer in half.
Like forget everything you know and don't care
this man
about.
Is a god among men.
Like if you remember what Goku said, where in Dragon Ball Z Abridged, where someone said, "Hey, I can breathe in space," and Goku said, "You can breathe in space, but space is a vacuum." That's what this. That's exactly my feelings here. But because this is one of those episodes where there's not much to talk about because you have to see it. I will say Neil Patrick Harris and Allison Brie. So no, those are the two characters. We get Neil Patrick Harris, from How I Met Your Mother and several other things. What's the musical he's in? Out with Nathan Fillion.
Dr. Horrible?
Yeah, Dr. Horrible sing-along blog. And Series of Unfortunate Events. And then Allison Brie, of course, Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, and she was in Scott Pilgrim as well, and a couple other things.
Brie Larson is Captain Marvel.
Brie Larson. That I've shoot me. Brie, whatever, something Brie.
Justin.
Brie cheese. Whatever.
Brie.
Anyway, so yeah, wow, I'm gonna put that on a montage, super cut of us one day. My complete failure there. As Yoda once said, "How embarrassing! How embarrassing!" Anyway, that sounded more like Al Pacino.
This is one of those episodes that you talked about earlier, where there's no plot basically of the episode. It's just about the action.
It's a very simple plot, which is what if you're doing a story in 15 minutes, make it easily digestible and just have it look cool. Don't try and throw exposition at it. Where we at? I have some notes. Go ahead. You were saying something.
Oh no, I was just getting ready to go into the rating.
And this is one of those where, I even wrote Allison Brie. I even wrote that down. Even though I think it's Brie Larson. Like, I don't know. It might be Allison. It might be Allison Brie instead of Brie Larson. It's one of those two.
It's Allison.
I don't know who
Brie.
Allison Brie.
Allison, I don't know who she is either, but Allison Brie is the one who voices Am.
Okay, so
Which is
not Captain
girl.
Marvel. Okay.
Oh, that what I want to point it out. Did you notice that one of them had a protocol droid and the other one had an R2 unit?
Yeah.
So instead of one person having both of the units, owning both of those droids, one of each had them. So
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting.
It's very in line
Also,
with
the
Leia and Luke.
the stupid protocol droid, wear a stupid space helmet to breathe in space, while the stupid Sith woman did it.
Yeah, that's very Rick
Tell me
and
how
Morty.
that works.
So it's like this is one of those like alternate dimension cable episodes from Rick and Morty, where the droids have to breathe but the humans don't.
I lost it.
What was I gonna say?
I was like, this is fine. This is completely fine that these people are super powered, going around space, not being blasted to smithereens because of hyperspace. But no, droid, that helmet, no.
I think this one captures like more than any of the other episodes. Like this one, until like there's like crazy anime stuff going on. This one is like the perfect blend between anime stuff, like traditional anime stuff, like in the modern sense, and then stuff that feels and looks like Star Wars. Like if like the robot designs look like they could the armor designs and the look like they could translate to live action. Obviously, the lightsabers don't, because they're not really. You can't really talk. You gotta watch it. Anyways,
oh man, he's got a nice, cool lightsaber. Let me just
give
hit
this
you with
one
my godlike beat stick.
I also feel like this one was in stereo and not surround sound. The sound was not. It was good, but you didn't have all of the. Yeah, I might have just not.
Homegirl is General Grievous's wet dream.
as general the chronic COVID disorder there. Anyway, I liked as far as the art style goes. I like Trigger does these penciled in explosions. So whenever there's like smoke, they'll do the outlines of quick little pens, pen marks on the thing to kind of outline the smoke and stuff. I thought the ships, the fire coming out the back of the engines look great. And I give this one. It's hard to explain why. You just have to see it. It's a 9 out of 10 for me. And it just shows like, okay, it's going to be a hard thing to rank. And boy, am I glad I watched the show.
Following you on this one, it's a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
And once again, I'm following you on.
And so moving on to the episode 4, another, knocking it out of the park again with the Village Bride, the most plot heavy of all 9, I think. We get another cool space opening. I think as far as the environmental designs, they look great, but they're very minimalistic, and you can see in there's a lot of cliffs where they're on mountains. The mountains are very, one or two colors. They're very brushed in, so it looks like watercolors almost.
The only one that looked like it was based during the prequel series. If I can.
I mean, it looked very unique and
well, because the battle droids are in it. It's the separatists are in it.
Well, yeah, they say separatists. Yeah, you're right. And the music here doesn't sound like Star Wars at all, but extremely beautiful. Like this music gave me goosebumps because it's so good. This one felt the most. This one, there's another one later on, but this one felt like a Miyazaki, but without the high fidelity in the environments and the art style. This one had a very minimalistic art style. It still worked. It still looks great, but it looks to me like when you're trying to make a game for like a GameCube and you're doing less complications in your artwork so that you can do more with the graphics of the game and not have to have the computer work. But no, this the environments look like a bunch of brushstrokes, but not a lot of detail. So there's hardly any detail. The character designs look great, but they also, these characters endear you to them immediately because they're quirky. They have very, very good personality that breathes through, and the story itself was very beautiful. And I I'm realizing I kind of forgot some of it. It's
This
a
is
very
the
emotional.
first one where the design for the Jedi, or like one of the Force users, looks closer to what you would see in Star Wars, the actual live action too. So this one was more, I feel, more anchored into like Star Wars lore, like Star Wars like culture, not lore, more like Star Wars culture.
And again, it felt like it could have been anything else though. Like it didn't like this story could have worked and just been its own thing and not had anything to do with Star Wars. But the ending fight where there's a girl with a mask, and very very in line with Star Wars, how there's a mask and then it's revealed at the end. It's like Kylo Ren or Darth Vader. It's always the mask. Rey in her first appearance takes on a mask. This felt the most hype mask reveal because she's coming out like I'm a Jedi, and like what are you doing on this planet helping people pick berries or whatever the hell you're doing? Until the end where she starts to fight, and you're just like so hyped. I got goosebumps. And I really like the design. Not the Imperial, the Separatist guy. He looked really cool. Um, and this, like I said, this didn't really feel like Star Wars to me until the Separatist droids showed up. But this one had really good writing. And the lightsaber
I
was
liked
really cool.
the friend. I liked the friend. I liked the design of him. How he had like the robotic helmet that came over his head, and he also the sniper rifle.
That's who was cool. Yeah, and how he used the helmet as to throw the droids off when they were shooting at him, so they would shoot at the helmet versus his head because he lifted it above his head and then
Exactly,
threw it at them. Yeah,
was a freaking rocket that he fired into the Separatist ship.
Oh, he's out of ammo. Oh, stupid.
Yeah, when we got the old battle droid noises back too and voices, I was like, oh man,
Oh, shoot him.
I knew I didn't miss you, but now I don't miss you even more.
But I give this one a high score simply because the music is so good. But like I'm realizing because I'm saturated by just the impact of watching 9 completely different back to back to back in a short amount of time earlier today, that it kind of went into my short term memory and kind of left. But like I remember liking this one a lot. I'm not as I remember liking the plot, but it didn't stick with me as much. So I don't know. But I give this one. I said in my notes 9.5, but like upon reflection, I'll bring it to a 9 because if it was a 9.5, I would have remembered the plot a little more.
This one's more of a 7 for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
looking.
The music
lower
was
down
just
for me, but
fantastic. But as far as like animation style goes, take away the points. I'm judging these all as an anthology episode, as a short film. This was a 9 out of 10 short film for me. This is what I want. This is everything for me.
Episode did not start to make me feel anything towards it until the Separatists showed up, I guess. Like I was watching it and I was like, okay, what is there anything more going to happen? Is anything more going to happen? Is anything more going to happen? Like the whole trudging through the mountain with the bride, on the village bride on the back of her husband's back. I'm like, okay, so this is happening. And then it's happening again. And it's happening again. And then they did the classic Star Wars fade. And it's happening.
The screen wipe. Yeah, I love
it. It's happening. And it's happened again. And I was like, okay, so screen wipe usually means something new. No. It was just him carrying her up the mountain.
It's hard to score it because while I watched it, I wrote 9.5 down, but I don't remember why I gave it that high of a score. So I'll bring it at least to an 8.5 because I just don't remember. Like I would, if it was better, it would have been memorable, but I wouldn't have wrote 9.5 down while I was watching it for no reason. So let's move on. I'll say 8.5.
FD3S4 Life said this is a 10 out of 10 and the best in the shorts, in my opinion.
I remember the music just being absolutely stunning. And like the framing, I remember the emotions it gave me more than I remember like the actual episode. But anyway, moving on. Another kind of fall for me. Ninth Jedi, very cliche opening with this one. It's like a ton of galaxies. There's some dude talking that we don't know or care about, and he's talking like it goes on for like 5 or 6 minutes of just nothing but exposition. And I kind of was like,
no,
like I don't know what the heck's going on here. Like, oh, the Jedi are all gone.
It got me for a second, but then like the imagery happened of the temple upside down, facing towards the planet instead.
It's bad. It's bad. I didn't like it. Like whenever they zoomed in on the textures, they were ugly. You know, and not in a way that fit the tone. It was like they looked very basic. Like the ground looked like copy and paste. You know, coloring book page. There were too many Jedi to care about. Like, first off, we'll talk. The spoiler happens later, like the big plot twist. But we'll talk about right now. This is a group at this point in the episode. You're thinking, oh, a group of like 7 or 8 Jedi hanging out in a temple, just standing around talking about stuff that's not going to matter 15 minutes from now because the episode will be over. But it's just nothing but exposition, exposition, exposition. We don't have lightsabers anymore. Interesting. Okay. Then they hit down the planet, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. We get, I'm confused. Is this Tatooine? It's not Tatooine. Because they have there's twin moons
Yeah.
at nighttime, which I'm like, I don't remember twin moons in Tatooine, but it's a desert kind of, and the houses look the same. But we've seen similar houses in Rogue One on that lush Iceland looking planet. But anyway, I like the girl character. She's riding her speeder bike like the Akira bike in Akira. I thought she was a cool character. I thought the lightsaber forge guy was a cool character, but I hated the butchering of the Star Wars lore at first, and then I was like, okay, because according to this guy, he's making the lightsabers for other Jedi, and based on who grabs the lightsaber, it changes colors, which has never happened. But this is its own thing.
But I liked
so who
it.
cares?
I did like it though. I liked that
right.
twist, and that it gave me like a new appreciation for what could be done with Star Wars.
Yeah, and it's just like one of those things like I talked about earlier, where I'm like, that's not how that works, and then you realize, oh, this.
And I like how it's
so it's just cool
like
right
girl,
here.
When the girl grabs it, it's clear, so it's not fully. She's not fully fleshed out as a person and what path she's going to take. We don't know if she's going to go down the dark side. We don't know. If she's go to
the guy kind of throws shade at her. He's like, when a real Jedi grabs it, and she's just like, yeah, and I'm like, oh, that's a slap to the face. And then ultimately, spoiler, she does walk that path. And this was one of those, like, you start off weak, and then it got me by the end of it, because a lot of it was exposition that just felt, because this was the longest, I think, in the series. There's, I think, this and the one after the next one is the longest. But it just felt so exposition heavy that I'm just like, stuff that you're not really trying to absorb, because you know that you only need it for the next 20 minutes. So it's not like this epic thing that's happening. Some of the costumes, I was like, I like that they brought the ponchos back from Fallen Order, because I'm not really a big fan of the poncho, but it transitioned to anime very well. It looks great in anime. I didn't like it in the Fallen Order video game, and I have my poncho off as that Jedi character for the most part. But it looks really cool in anime, so I give them that. And most of the Jedi characters in that temple, very boring, very uninteresting. No reason to like them.
Why they were.
Yeah. And and this one had more screen wipes, which I loved. And I like how it really made me feel like Star Wars, because they're on the barren planet with the girl riding around on the bike. That is always going to scream Star Wars when you have a desert planet with a girl riding around on a bike, or someone riding around on a speeder bike. I like how when they're in the forge, the shadow silhouette flew over, and the 2 human characters didn't notice it, but the droid did. And I like the designs of the dudes that come out the ship. Working
the Jedi
with the Empire.
Hunters. The Jedi
Hunters.
They're
so cool. Yeah. Oh, with the droid like straw hats. Like, they're not straw hats, but they're like if a droid had that. So cool. I'm not trying to talk too much. Like, if you have something else to say.
No, the thing that got me was the once they started. So did we do? I'm sorry, Carla came in. Did you talk about the spoiler yet? Or we
no, I mean, if let's hold on. Let me finish then, because if that's all you're getting
because there's a lot that happened.
So the other thing, so the music to this felt like it was trying too hard, because it sounded like a guy heard the Star Wars music and he's like, I'll make stuff like that, but then doesn't. and when he just should have used the classic Star Wars themes. Like none of these episodes have used the Star Wars themes, none of them. And that is, I think, this one really could have used it because whenever you're talking about, like, if you're talking about a girl alone on a desert planet seeking a higher purpose, play the Force theme. Da-na-na-na-na-na. Play that. Or when they're talking about the lightsabers were gone, play the Force theme. Da-na-na-na-na. Because it conveys this classic emotion in you that something you're longing for, whether that's the past, the glory days, or a different future away from your mundane. They didn't do that. And I thought the cinematography and motion of the latter half of this episode really captures what it feels like to watch a Star Wars movie.
Yep, that's where
and
that's where this whole episode got me.
Yes, but at the same point, like that beginning 10 minutes, like so exposition heavy that it kills it. But we do get, which Lucas is bursting at the seams here, the cool plot twist where she brings the lightsabers to the Jedi, but guess what?
They all turn red.
Hey, Jedi boys, which only would have been possible again where I was complaining about, when you grab the lightsaber, that's not how lightsabers work. But because it worked like that in this episode, you get that stunning and chilling reveal of the
characters whose designs, their alien designs or what they look like don't look like they would be Sith. Like usually when we think of Sith, we think of like the yellow eyes, we think of white skin, we think of robotic parts, we think of something that sets them apart from somebody, like to somebody else, make them look like they're corrupted. But these characters look normal, 100% normal. And that's what I think the most stunning part about that was, that twist, that like little like oomph to that episode.
Well, the Sith have, and this kind of like negates itself the more you think about it, but the Sith have always been about, and we'll get to that in episode 7, about hiding. They're really good at hiding, and one of the elements of that is they're dressed in plain clothing, just like the Emperor was literally hiding as just benevolent chancellor who is in plain clothing, looking unthreatening to anybody. But then that's completely negated by, oh, they turned red. We're the cat's out of the bag, bro. Like So again, it's kind of negates itself, but it's just such a cool visual element. There's also we don't get a lot of ice fighting on like ice that's going to crack in Star Wars. We've had that in Mandalorian, but granted, Hoth is an entire ice planet, but there was never a ice lake fight like in this one, which was just really, really adrenaline fueled. And like, I was like, okay, they brought it back. And I like the end. This one also had Shang-Chi himself, Simu Liu, in it as well, doing a voice. I don't really remember who he voiced though. And Masaoka Hiro from Heroes was in this as well. But again, I really like the ending of this. I like how the second half of it really brought it back for me. I like how it felt Star Wars, but the beginning is so bad that I'll rate it 7.5 out of 10.
Whisper has a question. Is it possible Anakin might have brought balance to the Force in Episode 3 by diminishing the number of Jedi closer to the quantity of Siths? It made Jedi stronger in the Force because the purpose of the power of the rule of 2 was there's 2 Sith at all times. So that means they control basically the whole power of the dark side of the Force. Whereas the Jedi were so, diluted. Like the Force was so diluted and spread out between all the Force users. That's why they weren't able to fight Palpatine at all. Like none of them could fight Palpatine.
I mean, I don't know. If Jake was here, like he said he was going to be, you probably would have had a better, even more fleshed out answer. I've never really paid because the lore seems to change so much with the way the Force works if you watch Clone Wars versus the movies and stuff like that. But I did see a TikTok today where Freddie Prinze Jr. was breaking down what Dave Filoni and him talked about, and I sent it to you. Did you see it, Lucas?
I didn't get a chance to watch it yet.
It was shock. He's a busy boy, ladies and gentlemen. Disney dad, DC dad here, and he's saying that going from what you're talking about, when when Padme gave birth to twins, that was evening out the scales because at that point, granted, you have Obi-Wan and Yoda, but they're diminished in their abilities. But what you did have was and Darth Vader and Palpatine. So the twins were an exact answer to that as a and granted that's a retcon because obviously Lucas didn't know that Luke and Leia were twins when he wrote the first Star Wars movie, but it works. It's the tipping of the scale.
I consider
at
it
the end of the day,
I consider it the world between worlds. Like there's a Star Wars multiverse theory that I don't call it a multiverse, they call it the world between worlds.
right?
And
at the
I
end of the
want
day,
to believe that's one of their worlds, a different telling of what the actual storyline is. Now, if Mandalorian continues to be glorious as it is, and then continues and maybe segues into some of the sequel trilogy, then sure, I'll accept.
no, and going with your next comment. Well, first off, let me address this one. You're getting into the realm of official canon versus head canon, and head canon has no bearing on anything other than just discussions and your own opinion. And yeah, there's a lot of people who consider the sequel trilogy as either non-existent or fan fiction or whatever. But at the end of the day, that's their marketing machine. Like Mandalorian looks to be setting up Supreme Leader Snoke's origin story, and they're definitely heading into the canon of the sequel trilogy. So that's going to be a part of it. Plus the existence of Galaxy's Edge at Disney just even further cements the canonization of the sequel trilogy. That is certainly
Well,
canon.
I know it's going to be canon, but in my mind, I'm just like
in your head canon, yeah.
Like it just there's a lot of inconsistencies and stuff that like bother me.
And it's hard to find.
I don't want to go too far. We can take another video one day and just discuss more Star Wars stuff.
It's hard to find a Star Wars fan who just loves every bit of it. There's always some contention.
So, Full Life says, unpopular opinion, but ruined Clone Wars Rebels for me. Animation and visuals were so amazing, and Visions, the other cartoons seem lower tier in terms of visuals and sound design.
Well, you're also talking about Clone Wars,
Consider anything that is Star Wars name canon after all the fictional universe, so anything is possible. I mean, you're 100% correct in that as well. But the opinion that you have about Visions, this was a like compilation. It wasn't just also one visual. You're
talking about money
creator.
And they don't have the amount of time that in Clone Wars when they order a 23 episode season, they have to make that in so many months versus this where they have like a year or two to make a 15-minute to 20-minute episode. So they are able to make that high level of fidelity. They wouldn't be able to do that with a 23. Granted, they could, but it would take a lot of work and money, and it'd be a huge risk.
Jindy Tarkovsky's micro series Clone Wars. That was beautifully animated. That was a great.
It's not on the same level as Visions, though.
No, it's not on the same level as Visions, but like there's scenes and aspects of that animation as well that was breathtaking to me. Like the Asajj Ventress versus Anakin fight before the last set of that segue into Revenge of the Sith, where they have their lightsabers out and then the raining on the lightsabers, and you hear the hiss of the rain hitting the lightsabers and the light and every lighting of the faces. That was beautiful animation to me. So granted, that's an older animation, and I still think that holds up to what we just saw from Visions.
There's a lot of people watching today. Thanks for joining us. Please like the video, subscribe. And there's a lot of great questions coming up.
Therefore, the choice becomes between the prophecy fulfilled and 3 or sequels not being canon.
No, I mean, technically Anakin brought balance of the Force by having his twins while him and Palpatine existed. It just didn't last.
Said Kenobi might have
but also the prophecy itself could have been a what do you call it, misdirection from the Sith, because that's how they cloud the Force, with misdirection. And so there's all head canon at that point. And even if there is like let's say there's an official answer in some extended Star Wars lore book or a Legends book or some kind of thing, it's like if it's not front and center, it's ambiguous. So at this point, it's whatever you want. It's interesting content to discuss about, but at the end of the day, the prophecy is just a narrative mechanic to bring importance to Anakin as a character.
Exactly. It's like how midichlorians got added. Like, we didn't really need it. It just adds more to an already expansive universe.
It's fleshing it out, and the prophecy is like you like that idea of the force, and granted, you can make it work either way. So to me, I don't like to get caught up in that because as like I just said, Luke and Leia versus Palpatine and Vader. That's very 2 to 2. But then if you want to like really think about it, you got Yoda, you got Ahsoka, you got the kid from Fallen Order, you got
Ezra from
Oh,
Rebels.
and Kenobi, Ezra, like all these different Force
Yeah, it's
users
just
around at
there's a bunch
the
of
time.
different theories, bunch
So
of different
yeah,
synopsises.
so
It's
I
just
always
out
just
there.
said I always just say the prophecy was null and void, unless and then people will always talk about Clone Wars. There's an episode where Anakin goes to this where there's like the father and the son and the you know what I'm talking about. Remember that episode, Lucas?
Yeah, it's the
Where
father,
that
the son, and the daughter. Where the daughter
yes,
encompasses the good side, the light side of the Force. The
yeah,
son encompasses the dark side, and then the father himself is the Force
yeah.
deity. Yeah,
And that, according to Filoni, I think he said that's where the prophecy is addressed, like verbatim. But I don't. Again, so it's you can get bogged down by the prophecy. The prophecy was not clearly defined and mentioned enough to really give that a full on answer. So I always just say, it was a you know
it was in the books.
misdirection from the Sith, or just not an actual thing, or they misread it. And moving
All
on.
right, moving on to the
Uh,
rating of this episode to you, Justin. What did you give it?
I already gave it a say. Ninth Jedi 7.5.
7.5.
Yep.
I think this one is a 8 to me.
You don't have you okay.
It's an 8 to me.
So moving on to another falling off of a cliff for me, Toby. I granted I appreciate this episode. I didn't enjoy it, but I appreciate it because
Star
it's
Wars Astro
very
Boy.
yes.
Astro Boy?
It's well. There's also so one of the things I'm watching this spoke Lucas to me, right?
It felt
Because
very early anime to me. Real quick, like it felt like early era anime, so like 70s, 80s, like Kimbo the White Lion, Astro Boy, etc. Like those style animes. Mega Man or early Mega Man, like it just had that like aesthetic and style to me.
he the frame rate and the hand drawn esqueness of things and their eyes very reminiscent of your Steamboat Willies, your old Disney kind of your Looney Tunes, your old
That's
60s
the
50s animation.
that's the only
So
thing I liked about this episode.
yeah,
Was
yeah,
the animation style, not
okay.
the episode itself.
I this like I give this one like this isn't the worst one for me because like that's 2, and I think this one the second episode with the chibi Boba Fett nonsense, they weren't trying to do anything unique with that one. It was just, hey, let's do a silly whimsical story that we like to tell. This one, very very one of a kind. This is like nothing you've seen before. I mean, you can compare it to classic things, but it's very unique. The music's very unique, very weird, very out there. It's doing something new, so I appreciate that. It's impressive, but it's again, it's one of those like, I don't care.
It's like Mega Man meets Pinocchio.
I thought when I saw the Black Knight looking Dark Force user at the end, I was like, I think Lucas might like him, but I don't like it. It looked kind of up your alley, but
The
it got
animation
dark.
style is the only thing I like.
This also is very biblical in the sense that it was very Genesis, because it's the God, the Father creates the new creation and says, "Don't go in the basement." Just like in Genesis, God's like, "Don't eat the apple." And what does he do? He eats the apple. He goes into the basement. What happens? He's left alone to his own devices, just like in Genesis and Tree of Knowledge of Good and Evil. He becomes a Jedi, granted, but he's lost the thing that mattered most.
Yeah,
So it's very biblical.
A robot can
Yeah.
use the Force.
Yeah.
That's another one of these things what we talk about, like the Star Wars lore and canon is like out
I
the window.
I don't have a problem with that because, like, again, we're talking about the twins where the robots are the breathing elements. So it doesn't really matter. The sound design, like I said, it was unique, but it's also irritating because the music sounds awful. I don't know. There's not much to say. I gave it a 4 out of 10, just 1 point higher than the second one. Because, and again, I don't want to hate on it because it's very unique, and I thought they had a lot of talent in making it. It's just not.
I give this one a 6 out of 10 because
Stuff.
I really did enjoy the animation style, and it wasn't like I would revisit this. Like I would watch it with my daughter, or I would watch it with my kids. I would deliberately be like, "Hey guys, look, Star Wars."
Very reminiscent. I mean, I like the thumbnail Whisper has for his profile YouTube picture because that's exactly what Screaming. I think this was not Sylvester, Felix the cat, and that's Screaming to me. The kind of the animation style and the characters, how they move, how they emote, but not like the environments. The environment's very weird. This one felt, and it might have been my TV. I don't know if it looked like this on your TV. Like it was too bright, and it felt very fluorescent, and the edges of the screen were like glowing, and it was just like it was very irritating.
It gave it a very otherworldly feel. Like it gave you that, like it's more of like a story, like a bedtime story, like a fantasy story. I do want to say one of the things I did really like about the episode is showing the Force without someone with having arms. That was pretty cool to me. I did like that. It was someone who was not what you would consider normal. Like I don't know how to say it. I wouldn't be able to hold a saber, but I'm able to do everything the Force wise. And then he was in a chair. Like he was in his chair the whole time, and then like doing some like Dr. Octopus stuff with the little robot arms on the chair. Like I liked it. It was like a nice. It was nice.
6 out of you. If we're 6 is always watchable in the movie scale, but if we're going like the school scale, that's still a F. But anyway, or a D or whatever. So anyway, moving on, episode 7, The Elder. Okay,
I like
back right up to.
I like this one a lot.
Good quality animation. This is I'll spoil it. This is my favorite. This is my number 1 because this to me, and again, it really shouldn't be, but it just because it's not doing anything entirely unique because this is straight up Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. That's all this is. This is straight up Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan.
It is.
And it gave me the vibes that I got from the beginning of Phantom Menace, which was the coolest thing ever. Like seeing the master and apprentice doing their thing, and Obi-Wan actually a good apprentice, like actually like not being a butt like Anakin is all the time, where he's whining about every little thing, and he's actually listening. Now, granted, Obi-Wan's not the greatest master having an apprentice either, but whatever. They're great. They have great chemistry, and as soon as I hear David Harbour, speaking as the Master Jedi, who I don't know their names, but David Harbour, of course, Red Guardian from Black Widow, Lucas, if you don't know who that is.
And Hellboy from Hellboy, and
yeah. So he knocked it out of the park. The chemistry that him and the apprentice have right at the beginning, they have chemistry. Like instantly, there's 5 minutes of them just talking on a ship.
Just dialogue.
But it's good, and it shows their characters, and it instantly endears you to their relationship. And they actually have a bit of a sass between them, and you want
that was sarcasm. I'm a pretender didn't hear that.
Yeah, it's so great. And then they land on this planet, and granted, it's not the best in as far as our environmental designs, but it's certainly far from the worst because everything's hand drawn.
It fits the bill.
There's detail everywhere. The backgrounds are like matte paintings, and it looks great, but it's not the most colorful.
It fits the bill for the anime style standoff. The backgrounds. That's what it does. It does great job at doing what you expect from a one-on-one fight from the protagonist and the antagonist in an anime. 100%.
And again, the characters when the apprentice is kind of like winking at the kids, he's like, "Oh, they're shy here," and he's just like, this is a 15-20 minute episode, but in that time, they just like with the village bride one, they endear you to these characters. They make you feel, they make you root for them, and they tell a good story in just that short amount of time. I don't know how they do it, but they do. I guess it's the talent. Of course, and there's flute music, like old Japanese flute music. And they're dressed like samurais to an extent, or no, they dress like traditional Jedi, right? They actually look like traditional episode
traditional Jedi,
prequel trilogy Jedi. and the foreshadowing here where he's like, I sensed something, but it went away. So be on your guard. And you're just like, that's going to be addressed. And they get there and it's the elder. And he's like, maybe he's the Sith. And he's like, I don't think he's the Sith, but I don't know. And then we get the straight out of episode 1, Obi-Wan, where he's headstrong in a very, he's like, I'm good enough. He's just really wanting to prove himself to nobody. Nobody, like his master is okay with him, but he still wants to prove himself. He's like, I can do it. And they split up. They do the Scooby Doo thing where they split up, and of course the younger one meets up with the elder.
The Scooby Doo thing.
That's what they do. They split up.
Reggie Ritual Riff.
It's the exact. That's what it is. Technically, they say it's not a Sith, but he's got the red. He's got pirate swords that are glowy. But anyway, it's James Hong.
No, they're Naganatos. They're short. They're what the ninja would use instead of a samurai.
They are, but the way he's holding them and the way that the animation style makes them look, they look like pirate swords to me, because they look like little cutlasses, but not really. They're not. I mean, it's an exaggeration, but it's for humor's sake. But he's played by James Hong, which he's got to be like 105 years old by now, somehow still alive. He's not that old, but all I know is he's the blind teacher from Balls of Fury, where he's like, here, look at the cricket. You killed Lucky Cricket. You. But anyway, that's James Hong just being that really nasty. As much as Ian McDiarmid plays a gross old man in the Emperor Palpatine character, this guy plays a gross. I think he's Chinese. Old man, because his last name's Hong, right? So, but he plays that gross old Chinese like naughty dude. He's like gonna, he's like ha ha ha, very 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 evil. And then of course the apprentice is like, I'm gonna go after him by myself. And there's only one thing I take off from this episode is the fact that during the fight, which is so good, I was so hyped with this fight because it was
so good.
It was the waiting game. This was the first episode, Samurai versus Ninja, but very fast, very, action heavy. This one was very master versus master, right? So you have these people where he's just getting into position.
Very Obi-Wan versus Maul. Like,
yes,
I
yes.
From Rebels. So it's like one strike does it.
Yes, and those.
Yeah.
But the apprentice is not. He's not there. He's antsy, and so he of course is overconfident. Gets his butt whooped. Thought he died. I thought he died. Yeah. He doesn't die, and that's what I take off.
The Elder did something we haven't seen in a Star Wars fight yet.
Bring it up.
He's coming up. And he just stab. Like there wasn't slicing, like slicing movements happening when he was fighting the apprentice. It was a bunch of like intimidating stabs when he was coming at him. When he was like hunched down really low.
I also like how he was like, I killed this thing. Oh, the build up to him was so great because they find the carcass and they're like, it's a clean cut, and the master's like, David Harbour's character's like, only a lightsaber could have done that, and he's like. You're just like, oh no, here we go. We're gonna get some, and of course, but like the apprentice is like, or the elder says, I hope you're a better fight. Like he's like, I haven't had this much. Something like I was just hunting that thing, and the apprentice is like, I'll be a better opponent than that thing, and he's not. He just straight up gets eats it right after that. So.
Did you notice something about the animation when they're fighting in the rain, the master versus the
rain
master?
Looked so good.
So the rain on their arms I always look for rain. So when you see rain animation, if you're ever with me, I'm always going to look if the rain hits when it hits the arms, if it shows that little like pitter, the little pitter of the rain hitting. It also did the thing, but it didn't make the noise, but it did the thing that Jendy Karatoski did with rain hitting the lightsabers and like the steam coming off of it. You could see like little sparks instead, like little sparks hitting the saber. So attention to detail in that episode was really high.
But when the master, the hypest I've been for Visions the whole time is when the master walked up to the elder and they're just waiting. They're doing that waiting game. I was so hyped for that because we don't get that a lot. We got it in Mandalorian with Ahsoka. Um, that was much more action heavy and lasted longer. But this one was just like, nope, I'm going to be taking one of your swords and then I'm just going to immediately cut it. And let's go for round two. Let's go. And it was just this quick. And he was arrogant enough to like get back into the same position, which he had just used to attack and remove his lightsaber. Like this fight really spoke volumes of each character, how he was dispatched. I was very upset that the apprentice survived because it just felt like a cop out. It you instantly established stakes
But
and
it gave us
tragedy.
a really good
but
ending dialogue between him
yes,
and the
yes,
master, where it's like he was like, if the elder, if he was in his prime, I wouldn't have been able to beat him. He was a
right,
very strong opponent, but
right.
none of us can beat age. And then that went into the thing was like, so it doesn't matter about power then? And he's like, power does matter because sooner or later you will plateau and you will be the best at what you can be. But then
It's
again, you will
also
fall down again at the same time, and just it'll be a reverse effect, and you'll have to come to grips with that. And that's where the elder was not coming to grips with that, where he thought he was the most powerful person on, like at the point of time.
and it also speaks volumes. I keep saying it speaks volumes of the idea of Jedi versus Sith. The older a Sith gets, the more overconfident and arrogant they become, and the older a Jedi gets, the more humble and wise they become. So if you mirror that with Darth Maul and um, Obi-Wan, Obi-Wan only wins his fight with Qui-Gon because Maul, after having dispatched with Qui-Gon, is celebrating and over cocky, and Obi-Wan beats him that way. And then in Rebels, when Obi-Wan beats him again, he is taunting him and in playing. He's being wise. So
He did the
Obi-Wan.
he did the exact same move that he killed
Mm-hmm,
Qui-Gon with to
mm-hmm,
Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan was
yes.
like, "I saw this years ago. I
Mm-hmm.
hit you once."
So whenever they take the opportunity to do storytelling in a fight scene, bravo to them. Chef's kiss. Now moving on. Oh, we got to score this one. I think I gave this one 9.5 because it's not the masterpiece that episode 1 is, but and I didn't like the apprentice surviving. I like not no, I'm not mad that he survived. I'm mad that he survived like without any kind of repercussions, having just gotten his lightsaber on his, like he looked like he was dead. I was like, oh, he's alive. But it is my favorite episode, and it is going in my number one spot when we get there. Now,
9 out of 10 for me because I don't like 0.5s. I've never liked 0.5s.
I always do that because when we get down to like 4 different, completely different, and Lucas, please do it just because I do it. Do whatever you want, but I do the 0.5s because they help differentiate 2 really good projects together, or they lessen the blow of something that I want to give, a 5, but it's not that bad. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, moving on. That was episode 7. The Elder. Now we're on Lop and Ocho. Another stunning one.
This is the one that I saw in the trailer. I was like, it's a stupid animal girl, and I was like, I'm going to hate this so much because that's one of the tropes I hate in anime. This is a freaking
sexist much.
This is a freaking 10 out of 10 for me.
What do you hate in anime?
10 out of 10. Animal, like the classic animal cutie characters. It doesn't have to be a boy or a girl. It's just like it was it's an anime trope that I don't like. It's like I don't like.
I suppose I haven't had any experience with that, so I wouldn't know.
Somehow, some way, this episode is a freaking 10 out of 10 for me. 10 out of 10.
Well, speaking of that, her emotions are like, even though that she's a creature and she's a humanoid creature, but still a creature, her emotions look great. But this is Star Wars, so you're a little more forgiving when it's an alien creature. It's not like it's an anime creature for the sake.
I didn't realize while watching Star Wars until I saw troopers and the Empire actually on the planet. Like this was 100% not even close to Star Wars to me.
And this episode was this looked the most expensive as far as like what Alex is here, the brooding bat himself.
Is ridiculous.
Yeah, and this one, like,
Alex.
I don't like superimposed film grain most of the time because, like, if you're not using actual film to make something, why would you add film grain? Because it just makes it look. It diminishes the quality of what you're watching. Not here. They add a good old helping of film grain, and it gives it this rustic, old timey look, where you have the best quality in all of them. Like, granted, black and white is a different story, but here we have all the backgrounds being stunningly detailed, giving Miyazaki a run for his money. They're all painted. Everything that you see is
Is
extremely
this the film
handcrafted.
that that you said earlier that was remind you of a Miyazaki movie?
Yeah.
Because this is the one
Well,
that
no.
100%
Well,
did.
I said that the bride one reminded me, but it wasn't. The detail wasn't there, but the aesthetics were. So like the color palette, the way the wind worked, and everything. No, this one looks like straight out of like Spirited Away. Like as far as like the quality. This one also
Well,
had really good sound design as well. I think of all the animation, without relying on the gimmick of the black and white, which worked really well, the quality of this episode is the best quality. Like as far as an anime goes, this one felt like the other ones felt like for the most part they had a TV show budget. This felt like a movie budget.
and this one actually felt closest to like another one that was felt close to Star Wars canon. Like the Elder felt pretty close to Star Wars. Like not canon. I'm sorry, I keep using the word canon, but like you could have possibly seen it in the live action world. Like this one was another one that, granted, it has a bunch of Japanese aesthetics, but the way it was
Which is
done,
fine. We've already seen that in
yeah,
Mandalorian where they have a whole
exactly.
Asian style city. But
So
no,
I just like it
keep going.
works. It works, and I didn't
The
want it to.
lightsaber is very non-canon.
Yeah, that's
It's
what I
got
said. It's like
code
there's,
written on it.
but when it comes to like, they use the military uniforms correctly.
Oh yeah,
when it
another
came
one of
to-
those. Yes, so just like we talked about with the twins and the armor looking like it could translate to live action, the uniform that the first of all, the writing of this is like this is the best like story, like as far as like in because it's two sisters, one adopted, one the father relationship with these two daughters. This a very emotional, gripping story between that's tragic, right? The only problem is it's unfinished. There's no closure. It ends abruptly in the middle of the plot. That, but the sister who does become is it Imperial? It's Imperial, right? This is the Empire, right?
Yeah, it's Empire.
Okay, not the
Yeah.
Separatists. So I'm getting my wires
She's
crossed.
wearing the
But
Krennic,
she's wearing
the
yes,
Krennic and the Admiral Thrawn white military uniform with the
yep,
markings and the
the officer
badges
uniform,
and the shiny boots, and that like
straight out of the movies. Yep.
wasn't even like a lightsaber weapon. She was just using an energy based weapon that was like a broken bow staff. I don't know what those. I know there's a name for those weapons, but he had like a broken bow staff. And then the other Imperial looked like he could be an Imperial officer within the live action movies. Stormtroopers looked amazing. The spaceship that she hopped onto after her fight looked amazing.
Yeah, the ship designs here, like the twins, with notwithstanding with the blah 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 X-wing, and this one, all the little speeders and everything, they look
the
great.
Star Destroyer at the
The
beginning.
Star Destroyers.
At the beginning.
The cinematography too. So there's a couple shots where there's a bridge and there's a bunch of people blocking the bridge, and so you see this perfectly framed shot of stormtroopers in a line, and you get several different angles of that really play with the virtual camera. I always call it a virtual camera. It's just art, but from that, and then when the main character kind of falls into the depths, the underbelly of the city, how we get different shots of her falling. This was chef's kiss. Like this would be my favorite if this is like where Lucas and I talk. It's so hard to pick like the top four. Like this is all like S and A tier right here stuff. Like the only I just end up taking points off because there's no ending to this. It just stops in the middle and doesn't finish. So it's other than that, like, holy crap, man!
But
When
essentially,
they're in
the little plot though, because we haven't even talked about. You just talked about how pretty this episode is.
one more pretty
So-
thing though, like when they're in the candle, when they have all the candles lit, shines greatly in an OLED TV. Go ahead.
So essentially, like this little girl, we don't know her race. She just knows she's off planet. Empire's invading their planet, trying to grasp it for all the resources they can, and then take the planet like they do. So then they start they take the girl from slave labor. She becomes part of the family.
I loved her character
Fast forward
so
years.
much.
I
She's
liked
so cool.
I didn't want to design. I didn't want to like her because I don't like that like tropey anime style.
That's my whole life story with this whole Vision thing. I didn't want to like this.
Yeah. So I like you showed age on these characters too when they got older. It's like there was actual age. So you saw on the animal-esque character.
As soon as it said 9 years later or whatever, I was like,
you saw on Lope, like she has more hair, she has more like there's more stuff on her face, longer features, and her voice sounded like it changed too. Like I'm assuming they got like a different voice actor as well because they're not older.
No, she was
younger.
She just aged up. Yeah, they did.
But her voice sounded older, like more mature. Same with the sister, Ocho. But so she gets taken into this family. This family raises her, and then the daughter and the father fast forward are fighting because the daughter agrees with the Empire, the father doesn't. And Lope's
well, it's not
like,
that the daughter agrees with the Empire; she's just too scared because nobody, and they really do a good job of explaining that nobody is willing to stand up to them. So the biological daughter is like, if we keep pushing them, they're going to mess us up.
If we can't beat them, join them.
I'm joining them because I actually care about my home and I'm trying to protect it. Whereas Dad's going to get us killed because he's embracing his freedom ideals. And of course, we're going to root for the underdogs because that's how we are in Star Wars. So
yeah. So then, Lopes, she's just like,
very complex.
Guys don't fight. She's like, I don't want to fight. I don't want any of this. Just don't make father angry. Ocho, come back home. Blah, 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 blah. And then it goes into Ocho and her going off together. And then the Imperial comes up with this looking amazing and all the aesthetics that they have. And she essentially turns and cuts her hair off, puts like blood on her eyes, and then becomes part of the Imperials. And then fast forward, Lope is actually adopted by ancestral Jedis, I assume, like a family of Jedis, and then has an ancestral blade of a Jedi, and then goes off and they meet up with the dad who's trying to fight off the Ocho now, who's now an Imperial garb, has a cool weapon, and the dad also has cool weapons, and he has like awesome fight scene there. And then Lope essentially is a Jedi. She's a Jedi without being part of the actual family, so she's able to use the Force. And everything.
She's grandfathered in quite literally because they're like, "Hey, this we don't really know what to do, but like I have this thing, this shoe box in the closet. You can have our
arguably the cool besides the duel, the coolest fight scene in all of Visions is between
no. I like the elder one the best. But
no, not for me.
With the master where he's like up against the elder, you don't like that one?
No, I don't. I'm not saying that I don't like it. I'm saying I like this one more. I like the weight.
Well, it's the weight
of this fight
doing more. Yeah.
So the elder
narratively,
the elder was just good guy versus bad guy.
Yeah.
Good guy versus bad guy.
Yeah.
So this one is Lope and Ocho. Like the weight of their hits is like you can
There's
tell
layers to
Lope
it,
doesn't want to hurt her. And then when you see her fully slash her, you were like, oh my God, did she just do that? And we find out like she didn't actually do a death blow. It was basically just like a get the heck off me hit. But there were still marks because of course it's a saber and another blade. The weight of that fight and how it was animated. That's
Chef's kiss. That's what I wrote in my notes. Chef's kiss. Yeah. Because we Star Wars. Lucas and I had this discussion where I wanted to slap him, where he said, "I like a good black and white story. So I like complexity." And overall, like I think after discussing that for so long, Lucas kind of like admitted, "No, I like a little bit of complexity there too." But he kind of leans into the tragedies a little bit more. But when we're talking about Emperor Palpatine, versus or Vader, like the first Star Wars movie, not really complicated. It's just good guys versus bad guys. There's one bad guy, clearly a good guy. Here we have the family, we have the heartbreak, and it's one of those again where I don't know how they freaking pull it off in 20 minutes because this is one of the longer episodes. But you care, you want like by the time the story is over, you're like, "Ugh, I want to see
a
more.
full series, or I want a full
Yeah.
movie of this.
Yeah, it
If
looks
Disney-
really expensive.
Disney, Lucasfilm, if this ever makes its way to your desks, give me a full Lope and Ocho movie, like a full 90-minute movie, and I will pay money. I will buy all products. I will buy merchandise. I will everything. Lope and Ocho.
And I give that one 9 out of 10. Lucas gave it a 10.
Gave it a 10.
So again, it's so hard to. You're comparing. I'm not going to say apples to. You're comparing apples to apples here because they're all so damn delicious. That brings us to our final one, Akakiri. This is the one that was greatly anticipated. Where they're like, oh, we have an entirely Asian voice cast in the English dub. This one was kind of very mid tier for me because it was kind of. I think especially after having just watched two of my favorites, coming to this one, it was like is bringing it back down a little bit for me. And as far as like overall quality, I did not like the aesthetic of the female character in this. Her face was weird. It looked like
It
I
made
don't
me
know.
think of. Have you ever seen Lupin the Third? Is that an anime that's ever came across you?
I didn't see the third. I saw Castle of Cagliostro that has Lupin in it, I believe.
Yeah. Well, Lupin, the character Lupin in that anime art style made me think of this art style.
That's a Miyazaki film now. Lupin, Castle of Cagliostro is a Miyazaki film.
Castle in the Sky.
No, Castle Cagliostro is a one of the Lupin movies. There's several Lupin movies.
Miyazaki didn't do the Lupin.
He did one of them. He did one of them. Yeah.
Did not know that.
His first film ever was one of the Lupin movies. I think it's.
That's interesting. I might have
I
to
think
look
it's
into
the second.
But the
it's
Lupin,
on Netflix.
Is it?
Yep.
Either way, that's the art style that made me think of.
Well, it's to clarify, and this is kind of awkward that we're stuck on this. The movie that I saw that's a Lupin movie, Castle of Cagliostro, looks nothing like this. So if Lucas is talking about one of those, he's talking about a different film that has a completely different aesthetic. Moving on from that, I did not like it, but I thought the cinematography was great, and they used shadows a lot, they used silhouettes a lot in this against the contrast of the sky, and really cool, like looking. The characters, I didn't endear me to them until the very end, where I was like, oh, I bet Lucas is gonna love this because it's tragic at the end. But it's a very
You got
it's a one-to-one. Yeah, it's a very one-to-one retelling of kind of the Anakin Padme story, where literally the girl has the same hair as Padme, and he has the same hair as Anakin, like in Revenge of the Sith. So it's very inspired by that. The acting is pretty good. The characters are not like they don't endear themselves to me, but they're interesting. They're complex. I like the this to me felt like an old school anime. I was like, it reminds me of
Felt like I was
Redline
watching
to an extent. Have you seen
Redline?
Redline?
Okay. Yeah, I've seen Redline.
Because of the way that
It gave me like
just the old Asian dudes. They're like, like, oh, you gotta go up the cliff. Those
It
kind of
gave
old
me like,
Cowboy Bebop.
I think it's called Drifters, Vampire Hunter D, Cowboy Bebop. Yeah, it gave me definitely Samurai Champloo.
Yeah,
that one too.
I like the end fight. I like the way where this ended up, but it was kind of not very memorable, except for the fact that the bad guys win. And I really liked the bad guy at the end of this too. Is a female character. Her voice acting was fantastic. I was like, I found myself rooting for her because she was more interesting than the knockoff Anakin and Padme. And I was happy to see that she got him to stab his girl and accident, just like another property that called Injustice that Lucas and I are hyping up here. I was like, oh, Lucas gonna love this one. You know, he got the same. This is what he likes. So, but
I
I
like a
thought,
good dark side story.
yeah, but I felt the overall episode. It's one of the shorter ones, and I just it didn't feel that interesting to me. Like it didn't like it was mostly because of the juxtaposition between this one and the last one. So I give it a 7.5.
I give it. What did I give Toby to? A 6.
Toby a 2.
No, I gave Tatooine a 2. I gave Toby a 6. So I think I'll give this one an 8.
Another 8. Okay.
Yeah.
So
because
that's our.
it's yeah.
No, I mean,
I liked
it's
the
good quality, but it's just not for me.
I liked the fight scene where it was a camera that angle that was it's farther back, and you saw a bunch of people fighting, not just the one-on-one. And then I saw a really cool move that I never seen from a Star Wars character. He's fighting, and then he like drops down like a drunken fighter move, and he like drops down and rolls and swipes on the ground. Like I was like, that's pretty cool. Like that's a really cool choice. And then when she was like sending in her minions to kill him, it was just because of the visions, and he was having like a brain, like he was having a brain like aneurysm almost.
He was like having slashing, a vision.
He was slashing like wildly at people coming at him, and you could tell from the way it was animated. It was more like it was more wispy looking with the animation style. It was just I liked that. And then of course I like the darker tone at the end.
Are you changing the backgrounds here?
What do you mean?
Because I'm like my face is starting to look orange because of this pink background here.
I mean, you just stared at it too long.
Yeah, I've absorbed the light. Yeah, I liked how when he's standing there, like Lucas said, when she's sending her minions, I like how he just dispatched with them each individually as a master would, but was so into it and he was letting his anger come out as a Jedi. We're not supposed to do that, and he killed the female, and it was like perfectly done. But it's just the characters themselves, the actual story. There's no weight to anything. I didn't care, and I do like that it ended the tragic ending, because at that point I was like, "Oh, I hope he turns to the dark side here," and he does.
So backtrack the Elder real quick, because it was a Sith involved in this one. Did you notice the Elder was the only one that was ever depicted from a dark side user that we saw their face that actually had the Sith yellow eyes?
No, I didn't notice that. I mean, that's quite the owl attention. I'm impressed that you noticed that, but I didn't notice it. No,
because
I thought they were all
the dark side user at the end of this one didn't have yellow eyes.
Right.
The two twins didn't have yellow eyes. Who else did we see? That was the woman. Well, because it was black and white, we didn't see the color of the eyes. So maybe she would have had yellow eyes. Who knows? So
yeah, again, this is the final episode. So looking back at the whole thing, I mean, by God, I did not care about this as a project, and by God, I was wrong. Like, and I'll say that, I'll bring that to my grave. Like, I was an idiot. Granted,
it makes me happy to hear you say that. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like,
yes, it makes Lucas, the Disney Grizzly, happy to hear me self-deprecate almost. Just call myself.
No, it just makes me happy that you eating your words isn't the word I'm going to use, but it's essentially the same.
Exactly
idea.
What I'm doing.
Like,
I do that a lot
when
because
it comes to animation. When it comes to animation with you, because it takes like a level of like Pixar animation to use for you to appreciate a good animated property.
Well, no, Trigger, Gurren Lagann's one of those. It's more or less like it doesn't take that level for me to appreciate it, but for me to get excited about it prior to it, that's kind of what it takes. But it's more or less like this to me is Star Wars. Like, Mandalorian is good. I didn't like the first season that much, but the second season was astounding. But it was also very reliant on fan service. And Star Wars is this constant, like, every time I see a new project, I get my hopes up, and it, I end up forcing myself to like it, like Rise of Skywalker, because I know it's not what I want, and it's, I know that if I just sit there and not think about it too much, and I hear John Williams playing music and a lightsaber sound ignite, then I don't have to really sit there and enjoy, like if it could be a dumpster fire and I'll still enjoy it, but I don't ever like to get excited about Star Wars stuff anymore because it keeps letting me down. And like even with Clone Wars, like I know most people are huge Clone Wars fans, but I think like five, at least half of Clone Wars is just like Jar Jar and
All the
C-3PO and
Darth Maul
R2D2.
stuff is what I'm really into.
Yeah,
when it comes to Clone
it's
Wars.
got a lot of great stuff, but for the most part, if I get excited for Clone Wars, it's like, oh, I gotta sit through like
And later
R2D2
and
saving
later
the day.
not early
No,
Ahsoka.
Ahsoka's a great character. We don't get a lot of her. Like it's greatly overestimated how much we get of Ahsoka in Clone Wars because there's like 400 Clone Wars episodes. I'm probably not that many, but let's just say out of 400, there's like Ahsoka's in the background and not doing much for most of them. But when she's there and doing stuff, it's great. But that's probably like 30 out of the 400, and it's like, oh, okay. And I like how they end it. But for the most part, Star Wars, it's hard to get excited about because every time I do, there's some level of letdown. And I really, I was again one of the reasons I didn't want to watch this. I like to watch Star Wars projects in release order, and I have not finished Rebels, and I haven't started Bad Batch. So I was like, I'll watch that. But no, this did it for me. I'm very shocked. They really knew how to start it out for me with that samurai, the duel. I was, but here's our. Let's get to the rankings. I will go first, and starting out at number 9 for me, absolutely terrible dumpster fire of the Tatooine Rhapsody. Never watch again. 6, Toby, not a bad quality, or excuse me, number 8 is Toby, episode 6. Not a it's for somebody, but not for me, and it's impressive enough. 9, Akakiri, or 7, episode 9, Akakiri. Really good episode, but just not that interesting and not really for me. Going to number 6, The Ninth Jedi. Really bad first half, really great second half. That first half brings it down. Some of the 3D environments were some of them were really good, but some of them were like the temple, not interesting. The ground textures, the wall textures, very bland, very basic. And we get to the 8. The second half of this is literally all A to S tier because after the Ninth Jedi, we have the twins at number 5. We have enough said about that. Great episode. It's just varying degrees of great, varying shades of awesome here. Number 4, The Village Bride. So hard to pick that one. Like between La Pinocho and that one, it was so hard for me to pick the placing of those. But La Pinocho would be number 3. Number 2, The Duel. Of course, we talked about that one to death. And of course, my very personal favorite. I admit, not the greatest episode in this list, but my favorite, the one I'll probably watch the most over and again, The Elder, number 7. That's number 1. Lucas?
Last one for me is Tatooine Rhapsody.
That one, we'll just say that one is at number 20. And
the only way I will revisit that is if my daughter or my son, when he is born, if they want to watch some Star Wars, and I'll be like, hey, here's this, have fun. Same thing with TOB1. I enjoyed this one a lot, and I would rewatch it just for the fun, like feel good feeling it had. But on the scale of all these episodes, it's lower on the tier for me. Then I got Village Bride. That one will be number 7.
Well, I'm happy to hear that you liked Toby, which means that my tiers are very contrasty, and yours are like, no, I really just didn't like the last one. Everyone else I liked, so it's good that you liked The Village Bride.
The Village Bride would be the next one on the list.
Yeah.
Like I said, granted, it was a beautiful setting, like a beautiful background setting, like you said, but I couldn't get over the whole like carrying the girl up for like a good solid 5 minutes. I needed something else. I couldn't get over him carrying the girl for like 5 minutes. It felt over and over, and then like the screen wipe, and then the screen wipe just goes right back to the girl being carried, and I was like,
I see. Those are nitpicks, but I get it. I get it.
And then, but the good thing about the episode was, like I said, the sniper. I like the aesthetic of him. He was pretty
Yeah.
cool. Another thing that I wanted to nitpick on that one is when you remove the mask off the girl, I wanted more than just like a little nip scar. Like I wanted something for the reason why her mask would be on.
That was
thing.
that was very like straight up traditional anime juxtaposed to all this interesting aesthetics that you don't see typically in anime. So yeah, it was a little basic for everything else, the quality of everything else. I agree with that for
and
sure.
And then the next one I got is Akakiri.
Okay.
You're surprised that isn't higher on my list, I'm sure.
No, I'm a little surprised, but like I don't see how it's better than all the other ones that you're about to mention.
The only thing that's makes it high on the list for me is the tragedy of the end and the fight scene at the end. The whole episode itself, like I was watching the episode while I was setting up the StreamYard as well. And I was more focused on the StreamYard setup than I was the episode, if that tells you something. All the other episodes, I was doing some stuff around it, but I stopped what I was doing to watch these episodes. And I was so enthralled with these episodes. But this one kind of just like, until the fight scene and the villain came into play, I stopped what I was doing. I was like, okay, now I'm watching. So that's where that one is. And then I'm going to put the twins. Would be my next one. I loved how wacky it was. It took the whole aesthetic of Star Wars away from me.
That means our top three are the same. Yeah.
And then I got The Ninth Jedi. I really loved the animation of this episode. I liked the new idea of lightsabers changing depending on your allegiance or what your brain process is. I liked the imagery at the end of the episode when they zoom out for the temple and it flips back upside down and now there's a light coming out of it. It looked like a lightsaber. And the whole episode was about lightsabers.
I don't want to interrupt you.
I liked the whole Saber Forge area. I thought that was pretty cool. I liked the girl character. I thought she was really, really good character. But this is where I'm getting into like my top four were really hard for me to do. So that's my fourth one. My next one would be The Elder. Once again, same thing for me for the last one. Super great animation quality all the way through. I kind of agree with you more now that the apprentice maybe should have died, or the Padawan should have died to have more like weight for the episode. But again, I resonated with that ending dialogue of like the aspect of needing power and realizing age happens to all of us, and we have to accept that.
I mean, like, that could have been a flashback too.
It could have been, but but without thinking of it. It made sense, and I love that dialogue.
I just feel like I feel like the writer slapped me in the face, and then like immediately like, oh, sorry, here's a rag to. I'm sorry about that. It's like, I don't know.
And the fight scene with the two master Sith, because this one was an actual Sith. Like I said, all the other one weren't Sith because we didn't see the yellow eyes, which signifies a Sith. So this one I would actually say was a Sith Lord at one point of his life, but awesome. And it was first old man character too within all these as well. That was like, and which usually we see in anime as a trope is an old man, very strong old man character, and that was the first one. So I like
Master
that.
Roshi. Yeah.
Next one would be Lope and Ocho. And it really hurts me that I can't put Lope and Ocho and the duel together as number one.
And I will agree, real quick, I will agree that I think quality-wise, your top two are better in overall quality than the Elder. But it's very personal to me in what I got out of it. And also, what the point that we take off from Lope and Ocho is it doesn't end. It's so understandable.
And then the duel, the biggest thing that I can say about the duel is I like the surprise that he is not a Jedi. That is probably the one thing that sets the bill above the most, because you know how I am, is I lean towards the dark side of the Force when it comes to Star Wars. I like the aspects of what happens with them. And when I saw the episode, I was like, this girl is pretty bad. She's got a cool looking weapon, and encompasses what I like about the dark side of the Force. I'm ready for this. And then boom, quick draw red lightsaber, and I was like, oh,
And as far as like
I need this.
Nani, as far as your top two goes, I have to say those are absolutely the best production quality and on display with the surround sound OLED TV. So for sure, definitely. I your list like we disagree, but I think your list makes absolute sense.
Yeah.
Yep. I think you're a little more objective. So that is what we got for. We were pretty ambitious to do 9 episodes in one long form podcast, but we did run a little long because there is a lot to talk about.
And we did have a lot of people some people stopped by and we
Yeah.
had conversations too. That's awesome, guys. Y'all should do that more.
And we appreciate all those comments. And remember, it's really, really, really grateful to have all of your support. And you want to continue to do that, like the video, it really helps us out. Subscribe, and we'll see you next time, guys. And it'll be a while before we have more Star Wars content. But tomorrow we plan on coming back for What If Thor Was an Only Child. So What If on Disney Plus.
Yep.
Thanks, guys. Till next time.
Till next time.
This has been Pretentious
Pop
Culture.
Hey. All right.
Bye.
Later, guys.
May the Force be with somebody.